Hello, it's Michel. I'm here in Ottawa at the CUPE building on this very special day. Today we are here to celebrate the retirement of Richard Balnis, one of our warrior behind the scene. You have no idea how this guy has done for us, for the airline industry, and especially for us at Air Canada. We owe him so much. I would say that if we maintain the 1 in 40 ratio here in Canada, it's because of Richard Balnis and so much more. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm sad at the same time because we are losing a pillar of our union.
He is without equal, in my opinion, in terms of Canada's airline industry. He's provided expert testimony, numerous deputations. He's worked the legal machinations, unfortunately, of bankruptcy, airline mergers, accidents, investigations, regulatory hearings, and numerous rounds of bargaining with the flight attendants that CUPE is privileged to represent. He came to CUPE around the same time as flight attendants made the decision to join our union, for which we're forever thankful, and a union between Richard and flight attendants was forged.
I came to the component in 1999, and Richard Balnis was the institutional memory for not only Air Canada, but for all of the other airlines, and was able to provide for us such great research and history on almost any topic, any subject that we dealt with during the time that we were in bargaining with Air Canada, or if we were just having regular meetings. He was so phenomenal, not only in the information that he produced, but he could also put his hand on a piece of paper to prove what he was saying. Air Canada really didn't care for Richard Balnis all that much because he was so solid.
Richard had just gone through what happened at Pearson Airport with Air France. And this is the minority Harper government, kind of a bit different than the way they are now. And the minister turns to this bureaucrat and says, "I think Mr. Balnis made a very good point. What do you say?" And the guy woke up and he 5 years left his life there. So we were in the minister's office for about 50 or close to 60 minutes from a 20-minute meeting. And a couple of days later, unannounced to us, the minister rose and said, we're not moving the ratio of flight attendants to 1 in 50. All of the preparation, all of the lines that Pam and I had to say, and all of the carrying of the heavy lifting was done by Richard. And this is just one example out of hundreds of examples of Richard going in front of the employer, the government, the powers that be, to speak on behalf of flight attendants and what their working lives are all about.
We are thankful for Richard for some of the major gains we did with pension in '99 and 2002. There are thousands of retirees today who benefit from that, and everyone in the future will also benefit from what Richard did for us in those years.
The second story is a more horrible story. It's the horrors of Nation Air and its owner, Robert Obadia, known as Bobby O. He was responsible for the murder of 7 of our flight attendants and the pilots and pilgrims when his aircraft crashed in Jeddah in 1991, an old DC-8. The old DC-8 had poorly maintained tires. The tires exploded on takeoff. The wheels retracted into the wheel wells. There were no sensors required in the wheel wells. The fire cut into the hydraulics, and eventually the fire spread into the cabin in the belly of the aircraft. And the middle of the plane fell into the desert before the final crash on final approach. There are several reasons for telling this story. Most importantly, the names of the dead flight attendants are on the wall here at CUPE. You will remember them on April 28th, along with all the other CUPE members who have died at work. And we were just looking at that plaque, and there are 11 flight attendants on that wall. The other thing that's notable is those flight attendants were kids. They were mostly in their mid-20s. The oldest, I believe, was 31. 6 years after the crash, I remember meeting with the families. They had no legal action because they were workers covered by WCB. And there was a Scottish father, and he was still waiting each day for his daughter to come home from that flight 6 years later. The other thing that I learned was something that motivated me in understanding what flight attendants do is there was an intense onboard fire as the wheels retracted into the wheel well. It was white hot. Molten aluminum was splattered on the retrieved seat frames taken from the desert. And as flight attendants on board, they would have had to deal with stampeding passengers trying to get away from the fire. They would have been going over the seats. These were pilgrims. Their English ability they would have panicked. And the flight attendants would have tried to fight the fire because they didn't know what was happening. The pilots didn't know what was happening. With their handheld fire extinguishers, like spitting at a house fire. Our investigator was part of the TSB. She was a female flight attendant from Nation Air, Michelle Palette. She was expected to wear a traditional Islamic dress in the wreckage site of the desert. But ever since then, that crash has made me understand what it means for flight attendants in their work environment.
Friends and colleagues, if you'd like to indulge me, I would like to take this moment to recognize one of the most faithful and dedicated allies, Mr. Richard Balnis, who retired from CUPE National in a few weeks, having served our union for 29 years. Richard, if the job of the airline division president gave me the authority to knight our most notable warriors, I will be laying a sword on your shoulder right now. As it stands, I will have to use words instead of forged steel to honor you with the title Great Friend, rather than Sir. You have indeed been a great friend to us over these many years. You've been devoted to flight attendants and aviation safety issues for longer than most of us have been CUPE members. Your wealth of knowledge, your mastery of the Canadian political system, alongside your inner understanding of our community's issues have been invaluable to us for decades. You made our group stronger, equipped us with a breadth of knowledge, and a practical set of tools that we will carry with us for a very long time. You also literally saved our butts on countless occasions. If it weren't for you, we would have probably been at the 1 in 50 ratio many years ago already. If anybody has ever deserved to be referred to as irreplaceable, it's mostly definitely you, Richard. I will admit to having occasional cold sweat nightmares just thinking of how your departure will impact us. But I hope that the relation we forge together will ensure that you're not too far away, and that your wisdom and counsel will still occasionally be available to us in times of crisis. Doled out with your characteristics like humor, patience, and unmistakable passion. And while some of us may be anxious about your retirement, we are also immensely glad that you will finally be able to enjoy some much deserved rest and leisure, and that you'll have more time to spend with your lovely wife, France, your friends, and your family. Richard, thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you. What can I say more? Thank you very much.